Lupe wakes up on a carpeted floor in a strange room. She tries to stand up, all while her father Esteban is freeing himself from the rope bound around his hands. He uses a sharp edge from a piece of furniture in the middle of the strange room. Meanwhile, Simon walks toward Lupe to free her from her shackle. The father and daughter then crawl to their mother, Marta, where the loving family embraces each other. Meanwhile, Simon frees Armando. He then makes his way to Jose, also cutting off his rope. Simon finds a sliding metallic door, their possible exit from this strange room. Trying to pry it open, the door does not budge, so everyone is stuck inside. Since no one can leave the room, Simon looks around, moving towards a large window overlooking the sea. The people are all in a mansion on a remote island, with no sight of human life. Everyone has taken a seat, clearly worrying for themselves, and unable to process what is happening to them. Simon pours himself a glass of water, and then offers a drink to Teresa. The water calms her down a little, letting her talk about her whereabouts before appearing in this strange house. She is an air hostess, and before finding herself in this room, she was leaving for a flight when a stranger knocked her out and took her. The people in the room also share their stories, finding that everyone shares a similar account. Unlike the rest of the people in the room, Jose was also tortured by the kidnappers. The first step for the people in the room is to figure out why someone would kidnap these 7 specific people. Since no one can determine why, Armando suggests they find what everyone has in common to see what these kidnappers want from them. Simon suggests that everyone start introducing themselves to help figure this situation out. Simon is a police investigator. Esteban is a businessman. Lupe is a human rights lawyer. Marta handles business with her husband. Armando is a surgeon. Teresa is a stewardess. And Jose only mentions being retired. The introductions end, and suddenly, a machine in front of the metallic door switches on. A text appears through the device, finally explaining the situation in which the people in the room find themselves. According to the machine, the people are all in a game, with only 3 important rules to remember. A PA system starts announcing the rules one by one. The first rule is that someone must be chosen as a sacrifice from the group. The second rule is that the selected person as a sacrifice must accept their inevitable end. The third rule is that no one can offer themselves as a sacrifice, because others must make that choice for them. Lastly, the announcer states that if the players do not agree to play, everyone will lose their lives, and the players must choose someone as their first sacrifice within 1 hour. A timer starts ticking down, and everyone starts losing their composure. Panicking, Teresa and Armando bang at the door to escape, while Lupe's parents comfort her in this confusing situation. Marta's motherly instinct prompts her to take command, and she demands that everyone calm down so that they can deal with this situation. With the room's attention, Marta asks that no one play the host's game, as that would mean playing right into the kidnapper's hands. Esteban adds that the kidnappers are clearly trying to extort money from him, as he is an influential and wealthy personality in the business world. The couple then assures the rest that they have influential friends that might be on their way to look for them at this very moment, making it unnecessary to play the game. Doubtful, Armando does not think that someone will be able to save them, pointing at Jose as an example of how serious the hosts are about the game. Lupe brings up a reasonable question about the situation as well. There is no insurance that everyone besides the sacrifice is left alive, so playing the game does not ensure their survival. Teresa then walks forward, saying women should not participate. Armando adds that men should not have to participate either, shutting her suggestion down. Then the police officer, whose duty is to protect the people, becomes a consideration. But Simon refuses to offer himself up in such a way, further adding to the chaos in the room. Jose tries to solve their problem, claiming that his old age makes him the best offering for the game. While some players find the thought disturbing, they cannot deny the truth in his statement. They give it a thought, and an argument ensues. Marta, especially, seems to favor such a cruel offer. Armando also adds to how hospitals approach such a situation similarly, where the young hold priority over the elderly. Kind-hearted Lupe talks to the old man, asking about his age and family. She wants to know if such an offer would affect any more lives than just the man himself. Not helping the argument against his sacrifice, he mentions that he has no one waiting for him back home. Lupe still argues that all lives are equal. Her compassion outshines most of the other people in the room, and shows why she is a human rights lawyer. With the discussions going nowhere, Armando argues that his life is responsible for the survival of many others, making it imperative that they keep him alive. As all sides are getting progressively angry during this argument, Jose offers himself up again. Marta is in favor, but her daughter still argues against it. Teresa walks over to the man to comfort him. Still, as the clock is ticking down, everyone is slowly aligning themselves toward the notion that Jose is the best offering. Jose then mentions having done horrible things in his life, which Simon asks him to exemplify. Jose cannot talk about it, but is interrupted anyway by 2 people appearing behind a door with a gun. Jose is shot down right before Simon, putting everyone in shock and disarray. The game hosts speak again through the pause system, saying that Rule 3 has been violated, as Jose volunteered as a sacrifice. They repeat the rules again, and, in his desperation, Esteban offers to give them money in exchange for their safety. Uninterested in his money, the hosts provide no response, but the rest of the players now realize that they have lost perhaps their best option for the offering in this game. as they still need to make one sacrifice. Armando is now even more frustrated, and the players argue again. Suddenly, the metallic doors open to reveal another room. The players now leave the starting room for this newly opened room. They see a horse from a carousel, and a plain-looking carousel near the room's entrance. Clearly creeped out, the players gloss over other spooky decorations in the room, including sad clown face stickers on the wall. There is a tune playing in the background as well. The players then climb down the stairs in the room, revealing a model train set underneath a picture of a maze. Alongside the train set is a plastic model of a man wearing Santa's robe, towering over a chessboard. Thinking nothing of the decor before them, the players keep looking around the room. Armando finds envelopes with names written on them, deducing that they might hold some importance in the game that they are playing. He picks up the first envelope before him, opens it, and reads aloud its contents to the other players. The letter demands that the players solve a puzzle to move further into the game. Armando asks that the players comply with the game, as the clock is ticking down and they will all lose their lives if they do not. The first puzzle is the surname of a figurehead that Esteban and his wife should know about. They plead ignorance at first, but Armando pushes them into revealing the name Pereira. The next question concerns Teresa's addiction, who also tries not to disclose her personal information. Armando counts 11 letters as the solution to this puzzle, and Teresa is exhibiting withdrawal symptoms for amphetamines, so he figures it out to be the answer to the second question. The third question is for Lupe, who has supposedly falsified a diploma from when she was younger. Lupe takes a moment to answer, but admits she has a false high school diploma. The next question is for Simon, asking for the name of a partner from the past that he betrayed. The answer to the question is Lorenzo, but Simon vehemently denies any truth behind the betrayal as he says it. Armando then asks for Marta's sister's name, but her family believes that Marta is an only child. Her daughter argues for her mother, defending her until Marta speaks the word, Ophelia. Lupe turns around, showing her feeling of being betrayed across her face. Next is Jose's turn, but the man is no longer alive, so they fill his answer in themselves. The next question is again for Teresa, who has to reveal the name of her dealer. She hesitates, but says that her dealer is named Elf. The next question is for Armando, asking about his STD history. Feeling anger at their knowledge of everyone's past and private information, the surgeon answers with gonorrhea. The last piece to the puzzle is the name of the woman Esteban has an affair with. Esteban himself finds admitting such a fact embarrassing, so his wife answers for him and angrily shouts the name, Alejandra. With all the puzzle pieces in front of them, the name Pablo Jega seems to be the answer to this big minigame. However, no one can identify anyone with the name Pablo Jega, but Simon realizes that Jose's answer was filled incorrectly. Realizing that the person that they are identifying is from his past, he switches a letter to reveal the name Pablo Vega, which clearly makes Simon lose his composure as he drops the letter J from his hands. He turns to the other players to discuss what he knows about this man. Vega is supposedly a serial murderer responsible for many sadistic and heinous crimes. He targets many corrupt people in the same way he is dealing with everyone currently in the game. His victims suffer a terrible fate, tortured immensely before meeting their end. The police could never catch him, as none of the witnesses could ever give a matching description of Vega. The police once got near, cornering him into a hotel room, but the police got the wrong person. In the hotel room, Simon thought that the person in the room was Vega, shooting the person down. However, he actually shot Vega's innocent wife, who perished at the scene. Armando also reveals that he was responsible for operating on someone with the last name Vega. It was a woman who fell victim to a hit and run, with her injuries being too severe for any chance of survival. Armando bangs at the metallic doors, asking that Vega forgive him since Patricia Vega's fate was not in his hands. His struggles yield no response, showing that Pablo Vega does not care for any expressed remorse. Teresa then walks over to Armando, revealing that she hit the woman with her car before Armando's procedure, pointing her out as another person responsible for wronging Vega. Clearly getting angrier, Armando blames Teresa for the situation everyone currently finds themselves in. Still, Teresa argues that she could not have been responsible, as the woman was able to be saved when she crashed into her. Armando does not accept her excuse, and argues that Teresa be made into their sacrifice to get out. In his anger, he pushes her down, but Simon comes to her aid and helps her up. Armando then hurls insults at her, calling her out as an irresponsible for the loss of an innocent woman, and inevitably leading to the terrible situation that the players now find themselves in. Suddenly, the plastic figure starts playing an audio recording of a nurse's testimony, revealing that Armando is responsible for messing up the procedure to save Patricia Vega. Armando first denies the testimony, arguing that the nurse is a liar. He realizes that telling lies to someone that knows so much about the players is pointless, and eventually gives in and begs for Vega's forgiveness. Teresa blames Armando in response to the testimony that everyone hears, now voting for him to become their choice for a sacrifice. Armando defends himself again, now asking for Simon's empathy. He believes that Simon would understand his situation the best, given the risk of a police operation being possible collateral damage in the line of duty. Teresa insists they vote out Armando, and they start bickering again. Lupe finally interjects, asking that everyone work together since turning against each other is Viga's main objective. Esteban takes over the discussion, arguing that the three guilty people become the prime choices for their sacrifice. Armando disagrees, suggesting that Esteban's past affair may prompt his wife to vote him out in anger. However, Marta understands that Armando is just trying to stir up another argument, so she clarifies her lack of personal spite because of such an incident, expressing that her love is too strong for her to abandon her husband. Esteban then points at Simon for being the most guilty player, directly responsible for the loss of innocent life. He changes the object of their argument and points at the family of three sharing some responsibility for the grief caused to Viga. The other three must also be guilty. Marta discloses that Patricia Viga was a maid at their estate before getting pregnant and leaving their service. Armando suspects Esteban may have gotten her pregnant, but the family looks at him disgustedly, as if the notion is completely outrageous. Teresa also argues that the story makes sense, and Marta defends her husband's integrity, with the suspicion that Esteban might be Viga's father. The host opens the metallic door leading to another room. The players make their way to the other room, while the previous room locks behind them. The clock is at the halfway mark, and the players are all traversing through this new room. Pictures all across the wall show a mother and a son. Marta and Esteban have a private discussion, supposedly worrying about an important secret being brought into the open. Teresa and Lupe also look at a picture of a mother at a child's graduation, reminding Teresa of her son. She shares her son's dreams, breaking further into tears. Lupe informs her parents about Teresa's situation with her son. Armando looks at a picture frame, showing it to Simon as well. They stare at the picture and glance at the family before them, prompting Lupe to also look at it. The picture mentions her parents as Viga's uncles. The mother and her parents seem to have gone to Paris together. The parents still hesitate to discuss the matter, but Marta eventually cracks and discloses more information about her sister Ophelia. Ophelia was a victim of a crime, leaving her pregnant with a child. As a result, she lost her sanity and was forced into an asylum. The family further reveals that Ophelia kept the child. And now the situation they find themselves in points to the family as the people responsible for wronging Viga's mother and the birth of a criminal after their lives. Teresa looks at Marta and Esteban in horror, seeing them now as monsters for what happened to Ophelia. Even their daughter looks at her parents in disgust, the two now trying to justify their actions. Teresa has an outburst, clearly angry at the sick family before her. Marta remains on the defensive, trying to prove to everyone that her choices are for the best. Armando then starts talking about their options. He enlightens everyone on how the current situation will end in no good for anyone if none of the players make a choice. Then Armando blackmails Marta and Esteban, especially because they are acting selfishly with their daughter's life in their hands. Marta hears him out, but decides to solve the solution with money. Teresa leads a difficult lifestyle with financial trouble. Marta offers to alleviate her burdens by providing a hefty amount to her son if she agrees to become a sacrifice for their survival. Simon and Armando are against bribery, so they are trying their hardest to convince her that she should not throw her life away. Meanwhile, Marta and Esteban are still trying to follow through with their plan of bribing her and making her the sacrifice. Esteban even flaunts his wealth to seal the deal, reassuring the poor mother that he can make do on his promises. Teresa, at first, seems to consider their offer, but immediately realizes that the rich family before her are the exact type of people she doesn't want her son to become. Negotiations break down, and everyone goes quiet. Simon decides to start a vote, choosing Esteban as their sacrifice. Armando and Teresa follow after, voting for the rich businessman to be their solution to the current predicament. Esteban also offers himself up, but Marta immediately breaks down and forces them to change their choice to her. Simon agrees with the change, and Armando and Teresa follow his lead immediately. Marta then forces her husband and child to agree with her decision, making her their official sacrifice. Marta begins to apologize to Viga and asks that he end the game. Eventually, the clock stops, but nothing happens to Marta. Another metallic door opens, with Lupe and Esteban helping Marta up. The players now make their way through the door and find themselves in the main hall of this strange mansion. They all slowly walk through the room, finding a staircase leading to a set-up dinner table. The dinner table has name tags marking where each player must sit, alongside a large variety of lavish food for the players. The pause system turns on again, asking everyone to sit and enjoy their food. They all take their seats, hesitating to indulge in the luxury. Teresa has a pill of some amphetamine in her seat. Still, she decides not to take it, regardless of the risk of any withdrawal possibly being fatal. Armando and Simon begin eating and drinking, while the rest still hesitate. Simon justifies his indulgence as a preference to leave this life with a full stomach, if that is his fate. Lupe brings up the game again, realizing that Marta's life is safe since the clock is no longer ticking. Armando agrees, since the dinner before them is possibly a gesture of good faith. The players then remember that Jose lost his life at the beginning of the game, leading to a discussion about why Viga brought him into the mansion. Simon deduces that Jose is guilty of being the man who forced himself on Viga's mother, essentially adding to his being the worst among all the people in the mansion. Esteban reaches for an apple, cutting himself on something sharp as he grabs onto it. Armando inspects the carcass upon which the apple was placed, finding a large knife with a tag. The tag asks the players to finish the job on their own. Suddenly, the timer starts again, with Armando preparing to finish the job, while Esteban and Lupe protect Marta, Simon, and Teresa back into one corner. Armando pounces at Marta, but Esteban stops him, subduing the surgeon before he can reach his wife. Smashing a wine glass over his head, Esteban redirects the knife, stabbing Armando. Immediately, Esteban moves away, letting Simon approach Armando to administer some form of aid. However, Armando realizes that the wound is fatal, so he accepts his impending doom. Realizing that this serves as an opportunity for all the players to get out of the game, Teresa asks that Armando become their new sacrifice. Armando curses them all, but offers himself up, with everyone now voting him out. Time is ticking down, so Armando asks that Esteban finish the job. Esteban obeys his command, grabbing the knife and stabbing him in the chest. Armando sees the light for the last time, and eventually succumbs to his wounds. Even with the passing of Armando, the clock does not stop. The players become desperate, begging for their lives. Their time is running out, but right before the clock hits 0, it stops and another door opens. The players move to the next room after Simon pulls the knife from Armando's body. The players then move into another room, a bar leading to a staircase. Everyone slowly climbs the staircase and makes their way to wherever it leads. Meanwhile, the people who eliminated Jose appear in the dining hall, following the players. The staircase leads the players outside, but into a path surrounded by hedges. Simon leads everyone, with the knife still in his hand. As they traverse through this garden, the players split into two groups, one with Teresa and Simon, the other with the rest. Before they get too far, Lupe forces her family back, while Teresa realizes that the others are no longer following Simon. Lupe and her parents make it back to the entrance, where the two people responsible for eliminating Jose appear. One of them shoots at Lupe, but she and her family are able to get away. Teresa hears the gunshot and runs away, with Simon trying to call out to her to stick together. She runs off and finds herself alone in the maze. She realizes that they have pursuers, but is unable to collect herself as a result of her amphetamine withdrawal. She reaches for her pill but drops it, forcing her to make her way under a bridge. Meanwhile, one of the two armed gunmen reaches the part of the maze where Teresa dropped her pill. Realizing that there is someone behind her, she takes cover and hides. The woman, now having left the area, decides to take her pill before moving away again. The other gunman is after the other group. He spots them and takes a shot, missing every single one of them. The family keeps traversing through the maze as their pursuer chases after them slowly. They eventually take cover together, until the gunman passes them by. Lupe also finds a hole in the hedge, through which they are all able to escape the area. Meanwhile, Teresa is walking through the maze, eventually finding a path that leads directly outside. With freedom just a few steps away, she runs towards the exit, only to suddenly get hit by a car. She now lies on the grass, a complete mess. She sees that it was Simon that drove the car into her, realizing now that the police investigator playing with them was Pablo Vega all along. He had secretly been controlling the game from the inside, all while helping the players follow along to his prompts and narrative. She begs him to let her get back to her son, relieving her son of a life different from his. Vega ignores her, turns on the radio, and drives his car over the injured woman. Meanwhile, Lupe and her parents escape the maze and find themselves near the sea. They spot a beach with a boat parked alongside the shore, becoming their plan of action to escape. The family swims to the boat, hopping aboard and preparing to leave. Meanwhile, Vega makes his way to the shore. The family does not know that he is Vega yet, so Lupe and Marta ask Esteban to wait. However, Esteban does not want to risk staying on the island longer, so he tries to rev the engine, only for his daughter to stop him. Vega is finally able to make it to the boat, and now they all prepare to leave. Vega makes his way to the bottom section, from where he pulls out two guns, pointing one at Marta. Realizing the mistake they have made, Marta stands staring at Vega in denial. With Vega pointing the guns at Esteban and Marta, he forces both of them to the rear of the boat. Lupe stands beside him, with one gun pointing at her, the other being given to Marta and Esteban for one last game, Russian roulette. If the two do not play the game, Vega will end Lupe's life. So Marta takes the gun from him and prepares to shoot. Marta hesitates, but Vega forces her to place the gun against her husband's head. She is unable to pull the trigger, angering Vega even more. As a result, Vega reveals that Esteban has a history of assaulting minors, with a legender being one of Lupe's classmates. Vega then points out that the next person on Esteban's list is Lupe, to which even Lupe stands in agreement. Prompting Marta to shoot her husband again, Vega realizes that she is incapable of ending his life, so he takes the revolver away from her. He then hands it over to Esteban, who apologizes to his wife before pulling the trigger. No bullet exits the gun, and, to Vega's amusement, Esteban reveals just how much of a psychopath he really is. Meanwhile, the gunmen appear at the shore, waiting for Vega's orders. Vega instructs Lupe to send them back home, and she complies by sending them a signal. Marta, realizing that her daughter has been working with Vega this entire time, completely breaks down. Vega hands her the gun, and Lupe opens up about her past with her father. The sick man assaulted many minors in the past, and even his daughter was not safe from him. She expresses her utter disgust for her father, now pointing her gun at him. Her mother tries to defend him, but Lupe insists that the man before her does not deserve life. Lupe then reveals that her father assaulted her as a child, further blaming her mother for never acknowledging that she knew, and never protecting her own daughter from her evil husband. Lupe tries to shoot Esteban, but Vega has to interject and finish the job for her. Marta takes one last look at her husband's body, now floating on the water. Vega comforts Lupe before forcing Marta to suffer the same fate as Ophelia. With the bloodbath finally over, Lupe and Vega watch the sunset together, the game finally coming to an end.